We're live. Hi, girls.
Hi.
This is our interview with Mrs. Dohanyos, and she sent me this picture so we could start off with this. So in here I see a pretty flower pot and some mugs. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yes, I put those mugs on display because Mr. Hickmott said that's the theme of our little interview series. And those are the runner-up mugs, but I do want you to see, this is my absolute favorite mug, and I'm displaying it. I hope that you can see the ceramic design on it. It's Finnish artwork, and it comes from my favorite store up north called A Touch of Finland in Marquette. And that's because my family heritage includes Finnish and Norwegian on my dad's side. And it's a very special place for our family to visit in vacations long ago. So this is the number one, but those other ones are runners up, and I can tell you what they are from left to right. The little white mug that you see closest to the piano, that's my Charles and Diana mug, because I'm a big Chuck and Di fan. I don't know if you remember anything about that. Diana, Princess of Wales, took the entire world by storm. Everyone fell in love with her when she married Prince Charles, and they had 2 sons, and unfortunately their marriage did not last, but it didn't change the amazing impact that Princess Diana had on everyone. She was one of my heroes, and I was very sad when she passed away. And I have a friend who is from England, and that mug she gave to me when she found out that I really enjoyed following the Prince and Princess of Wales. I got that mug, and so that one's special. The next one, the green one, that is from my alma mater. I graduated from Eastern Michigan University, and that's what you see there. And then the purple one, that's from Mackinac Island, one of our family's absolute favorite places to visit. And the last one has a drawing of a turtle, and it was my son who made that picture, and we turned it into a mug, and it was a mug that I used when I worked as juvenile court referee for Oakland County. So those were the runner-up mugs, but my favorite one is my Finnish mug.
Those are all really okay. Now we can start with our questions.
Here, I'll go first.
Okay.
What did you do for fun when you were our age?
What I did for fun, I was very involved in theater and softball and music, piano and cello, and choir.
That's really cool. What brought you to be a teacher?
Really enjoy working with kids. I've always enjoyed school. It's always been fun for me, and the opportunity to work with young people and to try to make a difference in their lives so that they can make a difference in other people's lives. That's what drew me to this particular career.
What is your favorite song?
Oh, I have so many. I don't even know how I could name one. I love classical music, and I have favorite composers, favorite contemporary artists. I really don't know the music that you have. Golly, what can I say? We'll have to come back to that question. I can't narrow it down, all right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good choices for that one. How old were you when you got your first cell phone?
How old was I? I was dragged kicking and screaming at the top of my lungs into the 21st century, and I wouldn't even get one myself. It was my husband who insisted that he had to give me one so that he could communicate with me, and I wouldn't turn it on. He would be so frustrated. You never turn the thing on, how can I reach you? And it was the very, very first one was a flip phone, and I didn't know how to do any kind. Do you remember? You probably don't remember the old way of texting where you had to hit the ABC button several times to spell out the words individually. It was very, very time consuming. This was before the iPhones. So I didn't know how to do any of that. So people would try to reach me via text, and I couldn't even open it up. And that was, my gosh, how many years ago was that? That was in the 1990s. And then there was an enormous breakthrough, because what happened was my husband, he got a new cell phone, a new iPhone. And he said, well, do you want to try using my old one? And so when I brought it to school, I was so proud of myself. I was at Berkshire Middle School in 2015, and I thought, wow, this is terrific. And the kids all laughed at me. They said, what an old phone. What are you doing with that? And for me, I thought, this is amazing. So it took a long time for me to get up to speed, but you are my witnesses. I can vouch. I've got my own now. It's an iPhone, and I text away like crazy. And I even send emojis, which is, again, a new development. Now the Instagram and TikTok and all of that, I'm sorry, girls, that's way beyond my league. I'm not there. But, and I'm not Twitter either. I have to tell you, I always thought, I thought anybody who went to Twitter sounded like a bird brain. So I thought, why would we want to do that? I mean, we're supposed to be adults here. But then, of course, it went viral. Everybody and his or her brother began to do it. And then I just got reactionary. I said, well, okay, I'll be the one person in the universe that does not tweet.
How many people are in your family?
My husband and I have 2 children. They're both they're adults now. Our daughter, Fiona, she's our oldest child, and she's married, and she has 3 children. So I am a grandma, and I love it. And our son, Jordan, he's 24. He's going to be 25 in April. He's trying to finish up biochemistry studies at Oakland University. He's taking the extended year plan, I guess we can say.
What's your favorite sport to either like watch or play?
I don't really play sports anymore. I've entered that portion of life where the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so for me, anything more strenuous than badminton it could become something dangerous. But in my youth, my absolute favorite sport was softball. I loved it. My father was the coach of our girls softball team. And I had so many wonderful experiences with my dad, with my sister. She was the pitcher on the team. I loved to play first base. I could play outfield too, but first base was my absolute favorite. And there was a period of time where I wasn't a bad hitter, but that was, well, shall we say hit or miss. Some seasons I would really find my niche, and other seasons I would pop up like crazy. So it probably comes as no surprise to you that in regard to professional sports, I'm a Tigers fan through and through. And I will root for them even if they're not doing well, because there's always another season.
Yeah.
I remember when they won their last World Series, I happened to be in downtown Detroit on the day of the parade, and that was one of the most exciting things that I had experienced in a group setting. That was thrilling. The entire city was so alive. It was electric. It was an enormous, like a cast party after a show, but everybody was so happy, and there were people that were climbing up on the lampposts, and they were waving to the baseball players as they came through the parade in their convertibles. We had perfect weather, and oh, it was so exciting. I felt so connected. And I have to say, my husband is an absolute nut about the Red Wings. And so because of his enthusiasm for the Red Wings, and my dad also liked to follow the team as well, that was an utter thrill when the Red Wings won the Stanley Cup back to back. And we lived in Royal Oak at that time, and going into Royal Oak right after they won, it was the same experience. Everyone was everybody's friend. There was a complete unity that was indescribable. It was phenomenal. It was so exciting. So baseball and hockey, but I don't play hockey, I just watch.
Oh yeah. Did you have a favorite teacher when you were a kid?
Favorite teacher, I did. The school was configured differently when I was your age. I went to Royal Oak Public Schools, and so we would have kindergarten through 6th grade. That was our elementary. And then junior high school was only 7th and 8th grade, and then high school was 9th through 12th. And the teacher that I will never forget was Steve Klein, my 5th grade teacher. He was the first male teacher that I had ever had. And he was a phenomenal instructor. He could get things out of young people that you couldn't believe it. It was remarkable. And he kind of took me under his wing. He thought that I had potential, and he was very encouraging. And I stayed in touch with him all the way through high school. And he had urged me, he said, you should go to Kalamazoo College. That was his college. He said, you'd make a great teacher. And I didn't. I wound up going to Eastern Michigan, but I've never forgotten Mr. Klein. And then when I became a substitute teacher and had a chance to work in the Royal Oak District, I went back to him, and we had some wonderful conversations. And I was very sad. He left this location. He took another position out of state. I think he went to Arizona. But Mr. Klein, I'll never forget him. He was absolutely wonderful. I had in junior high school, I had a teacher named Barbara Newcomer, and she could do everything wonderfully. She was a super teacher. She was absolutely inspiring. And then in high school, all of the music teachers that we had, we all fell in love with the music teachers. If you were in orchestra or band or choir, you always loved your music teachers. And so Mr. Picklow, isn't that funny? Mr. Carl Picklow was the name of our symphony orchestra teacher. And I always thought that was hilarious because he taught orchestra rather than band. You'd think that with that sort of last name, you should be a wind player. But Mr. Picklow was phenomenal. And my sister and I, we both played cello, and we went to Europe with Mr. Picklow with a group that he helped organize. That was thrilling. Mr. Lancaster, Keith Lancaster, was our choir director. He was great. Lorna Wilden was our drama teacher. Miss Wilden was a force to be reckoned with. Nobody messed with her. And when she said something, and if she set a deadline, you didn't look for no excuses. That's how she ran her activities, and everyone really benefited from it, even though at the time we complained about it. Miss Wilden was wonderful. And then I had a business teacher that I adored, Linda Flynn, and she continued to teach, so that when I was a substitute teacher, I had the chance to be with her for a few days as well. And Mrs. Flynn was the most organized person that I'd ever met. And she was one of those quiet instructors. Never, ever once did she ever raise her voice. She probably didn't talk any louder than what we're doing right now. But you didn't mess with her. You knew that she had assignments. She laid it out perfectly clearly. You had a responsibility to get them done on time. And if you didn't get them done right, you would do them again and again and again until you got them right. And so she was my typing teacher. And right now, you probably have never had the opportunity to type on a manual typewriter, but long before there were computers, learning to type on a manual typewriter was a physical experience. And so you'd wind up with letters flying over the page, and you'd have to use an eraser. And if you erased a hole in the paper, you had to start all over again. So there were things about learning how to type that are very different than today, but I loved her discipline. And as a result, I may not know a lot about computers, but by golly, I can handle a keyboard pretty well. Yes, I can.
Well, it sounds like you had a lot of great teachers.
I did. Yeah. Yes, I did.
Next question. What was your first car?
The very first car, oh, you probably don't even know what this is. It was a used car. My father had bought it he used it to get to work, and then he passed it down to us girls. So my sister was the first driver in the student driver in the family, and it was called a Valiant. And it was not considered a big car. It was indigo blue. I thought it was pretty, but it was very old-fashioned. And so, of course, we were not. When we came to school in that car, nobody was looking twice at us. It was kind of a dumpy old car. And then somebody clobbered my sister, and so then it was a dumpy old car with a broken tail light. But it functioned very well. It got us where we needed to go, and allowed us a certain amount of freedom. And so that beautiful blue Valiant, that was the very first vehicle. And it did not have power steering, by the way. Girls, can you imagine? It felt like driving a truck when you had to turn it. It didn't have power steering, so you really had to crank on the wheel. Wheels were bigger, and they were metal in those days. So that was a car that could take a beating and still keep on ticking.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we are a dog family. Primarily because my husband developed an allergy to cats. We did have a cat as our first pet when we were first married, but we really gravitate to dogs. And so the first dog that we had, that our children had as they were growing up, was a cockapoo called Molly Brown. And she was the best dog in the entire world. I loved Molly Brown. She lived 19 years, which was an amazing length of time. And when she started slowing down, we bought another cockapoo, and that dog's name was Bonnie Dundee. And Bonnie was the dumbest dog that I'd ever been around, full of love, but really, really clueless. And Bonnie is special in my heart because our family, my husband and I, we moved from Royal Oak to Waterford, and that move was traumatic for me. And if you've heard people talk about dog therapy, it really, really is true. Pet therapy is absolutely, it works. And that dear dog, Bonnie Dundee, got me through that move, got me through that trauma, and I still managed to find a smile. So I will always love Bonnie, even though she wasn't smart. But the little dog that we have right now is small and sassy, and her name is bigger than she is. Her name is Brecken Aberdeen McPhee, and she is what they call a porky. So she's a Yorkshire Terrier mix with, and I always get it mixed up, I think it's Pomeranian, I don't think it's Pekingese, but she's much more brown. She's more of the Pekingese or the Pomeranian look, but her funny little face, it's kind of it's a cute face, but oh, she's naughty. She could be a real stinker. And she keeps, she was purchased for me by my son as a birthday present when Bonnie Dundee passed away. And my husband had said, no, we're not having any more pets. No, we're done with pets. But I was heartbroken, and my son knew that. And so one August afternoon, he said, let's go for a ride. We went to Monroe, Michigan, and we got this little dog and fell in love with her immediately. My husband lasted a grand total of 20 minutes before he fell in love with the dog. And now the dog plays more with him than she does with me.
That's cool that you had a lot of dogs.
Girls, I know that Mr. Hickmott said we were only supposed to spend about 10 or 15 minutes. Have we gone over our timeline?
Only by like 3 minutes, I think.
Okay, we better stop then. Was there any other question that you wanted to sneak in before we call it?
There's only one more, but you already answered it. It was like what college you went to. You already said what college you went to, so.
Yep, Eastern Michigan. Loved it. Had a fantastic experience. Got to travel overseas. Girls, This has been so much fun for me. Thank you so much for interviewing.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you at Derby.
Yes, bye.
Bye.